Hola, boa noite. Carl Munson here with the Portugal Show here with expatsportugal.com. And it's my great pleasure and a bit of a surprise tonight, actually. We're going to talk to Paul Ryan this evening, he of the Village Kitchen. And due to unforeseen circumstances, we'll talk to Paul another time. Looking forward to that. Always good to talk with Paul. And in these unusual circumstances, I put a little bit of an appeal out on the Good Morning Portugal show page. And lovely Laura, who's joined us this morning on the Good Morning Portugal show, said, I'll do that. And here she is on the other end of the line, hopefully from Gois. Are you there, Laura?
Hi, Carl. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. That little pause kind of worried me for a moment there. I thought you'd gone. And people tuning in tonight will see that we're not doing they are being spared my face on the live stream, and this is like a proper radio phone in. I'm really excited to be doing it this way at your request. So we will be talking to you. It's a bit of an expat chat, and an expat chat phone in, finding out about you, your part of Portugal, and taking questions from anybody who wants to fire a question our way and ask about life in Portugal and ask you. So thank you so much for stepping in at such short notice. Are you well this evening?
Very well. It's a beautiful evening here in Gois. The stars are shining, and it was misty earlier, but it seems to have cleared up.
Wow. Gois is so beautiful. I said this morning when you mentioned that you're from Gois that we have spent some time, in my family, spent some time in, I think, probably one of your wonderful river beaches over that way. It's not the only thing Gois is famous for, of course, and we'll find out more about it from you this evening. But are you an occasional visitor, when the weather's suitable, to the river beach there?
Yes, we have quite a few river beaches around, and they're quite remarkable. Very clean water and lots of fun, actually.
Yeah, we really, really enjoyed it. Kids, I mean, it's one of Portugal's best kept secrets, I think, the whole river beach thing. But before we focus in on Gois's particular treats and pleasures over that way, I'm picking up there that you are not a native Portuguese person from your accent. Do you want to tell us where you came from originally for this expat chat?
Originally, I came from South Africa, born and bred in South Africa, and traveled to America and to Australia and lived in both, and then returned to South Africa and then came across to Portugal.
Wow. Absolutely wonderful. And I think you have some Portuguese blood in your ancestry.
Yes, my grandfather was still in Portugal, and unfortunately he has passed away. And he was sent out to South Africa to work for Formula One Ferrari as their mechanic.
Wow.
So in South Africa, so that's how we came to Africa. And so my father was between Portugal and Mozambique. Because after that, my grandfather bought cashew nut farms in Mozambique and then returned to Portugal, to Porto. So we originate from the Porto region, and that's how we came back here.
That's amazing. What a story. Go on.
Yeah. So I feel I belong to Portugal, even though I lived most of my life in South Africa.
And you mentioned a wonderful crop there, cashews. I mean, do you remember that as a child? In the what are they? Are they called cashew plantations?
I never got to see the cashew nut plantations in Mozambique because, unfortunately, Mozambique went through a bit of a revolution.
Sure.
And with that, most of the Portuguese were forced to leave with just suitcases. So that's what happened there.
Wow.
So my grandfather returned to Portugal and continued his life here.
Incredible. And he would have been very proud a weekend or two ago, wouldn't he, to see the Formula One coming to, I think, Portugal maybe for the first time in Portimão.
Yes, the first time in Portimao, I think. Yeah. We were quite shocked that they actually went ahead
Oh,
with
yes.
everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But yes, they came out and they raced here in Portugal.
Amazing, amazing. So when did you first get that inkling then that you might return to your ancestral home of Portugal?
When I was 14, I came to visit my grandfather and I really fell in love with Portugal. Unfortunately, at that stage, Portugal was still a bit behind the times, having a different currency and not part of the union yet. And then I revisited just before my grandfather passed away, and I fell in love with Portugal once again and just decided to pick up everything and come across.
Amazing, amazing. We're getting our first comment coming in. Eric J, listening in on YouTube. Good evening, Laura and Carl from North Carolina. Going to be a busy week, Carl. Hope you had a relaxing weekend. No, Eric, a very busy weekend. And yeah, we've got a busy week ahead of us, of course, with what's going on over there, Eric, in your country. I don't know if you want to tell us what the atmosphere is like over there currently for you. We're absolutely fascinated at this end. If I speak for my fellow Europeans looking across the Atlantic and wondering what on earth and how it's all going to end up over there. So do let us know. Druba is also tuned in, that wonderful man from Sintra whose story we heard a couple of weeks ago on the morning show. Druba saying simply, I am here too. Good to hear from you. So any questions for Laura, from you, Eric, or from you, Druba? Most welcome. Pop them in the comments. Oh, Xander's here as well from Texas. We've got someone listening in from Texas, Laura, simply saying again, I'm here. Lovely to hear from you, Xander. And thank you for all the correspondence you send my way and the interesting things that you bring to my attention. So Porto, when you were 14 and Portugal was a little bit different, you'd have had escudos in your pocket at that time, right?
Yes, it was very, very, very different. It was very strange to walk around my grandfather's village, and underneath most of the houses there were animals. And I still remember, because in South Africa we were living in really, these houses and estates and stuff. And I came out here and I walked past this one house and it was like this tiny yard with a cow in it, and I couldn't believe my ears. I heard this cow and I looked and and I was like, where is this cow? And I mean, it wasn't that far away from Porto at that stage. And I was quite amazed that here you have the city, you could catch a train in and go to the beach and experience a lovely day on the beach. And, then matinees were very prevalent, especially if you were young. You could go to an underage matinee with beautiful music during the day, and you come back and you come to this little village which is just at the outskirts of Porto, and here these cows are in the backyards, and I was absolutely like stunned by this, and I couldn't believe what was going on here. Very different, yes.
Oh, amazing.
And yes, and so it was a bit of both, village and city all in one.
Incredible. And the seaside for people in Porto, am I right in thinking that was Matosinhos that you would go to as your resort there?
Yes.
Well, and what was that? What was that like then?
It was actually quite interesting. I mean, I catch the train along and very free. I felt, that's the one thing I've always felt with Portugal is the freedom, almost like a safety, a sense of like a well-being, if you know what I mean. I didn't feel uneasy at all.
Yeah.
And that was so wonderful about Portugal even then.
Yeah, incredible. And you're right. Yes, then and now, I think a lot of people report that, don't they, as one of the wonderful features of this country.
Yes, I think the safety aspect really comes across, especially if you've lived in other countries. I know, America, we when I lived there, I loved America, but I didn't feel safe even at the university I was sitting in, partly because of all the issues with firearms and things like that. I honestly didn't feel safe often. And over here, I didn't have that concern. I mean, possibly there are concerns in the cities at night and things like that for girls. You shouldn't be taking any chances. But I didn't feel as unsafe here. It was quite liberating.
I bet, as a 14-year-old, how fantastic. Okay, so let's bring it right up to date then. You're in Gois. You sent me some lovely photos, which I'll share on the screen. Looks like you had a fantastic weekend there. Could you, for the benefit of our listeners, and well, if they're viewing, they're just going to see my face pulsating on the screen. This is a new thing we're trying. It's like basically a phone in tonight, which is fantastic. I've got Laura with me, who's originally from South Africa, who's settled in Gois. Sorry, did you say when you settled there, Laura? I can't remember.
Well, what happened was I left South Africa about 3 years ago.
3 years, okay.
Traveled Portugal first, from north to south, and viewed Portugal for about 6 to 7 months. Then went across to the UK to have a look at that. And then came back to Portugal. So I bought this house about a year ago.
Amazing. So 12 months to share with us, plus your traveling time. Well, we'll come back to that.
Yes.
I think that's a really good idea to do a little bit of traveling first. But going back to your comment about safety, Elaine Godley is here. Well, actually, her first comment is, "Hello, it's me," as sung by Adele. I can imagine Elaine doing that, actually. And then she says, "Yeah, I feel very safe here in East Algarve." So someone else sort of corroborating the idea of personal safety in Portugal. And from the States, from Charles, our friend Charles Mitchell, who will be helping us with a bit of presidential election coverage tomorrow night and Wednesday night, hopefully. Boa noite, my friend. I think as we know each other and we're familiar, Charles, you can do the Portuguese boa noite and add a little bit of a noite on the end of that. First question for you, Laura. What is winter like in Gois? Does it snow over your way?
Well, we have a mountain range and a few parks, natural parks here, where the peaks are higher, and there it snows. But Gois itself, not particularly. A bit of frost, but not that much snow, no. So last winter we had a lot of rainfall. There was a large depression that hit here. I think it was called Elisa. And we were busy doing the floors. I renovated the house, so I had to replace, because it's a schist house, had to replace 2 levels of flooring, and decided to do it myself. We did it ourselves, and I wanted these massive rafters, 14 by 14. So it was pouring down with rain, and we were putting these rafters in and doing the flooring, and that was quite something.
I bet it was. I've got a lovely picture that you sent me this morning with the pumpkin outside and your schist home there. It's absolutely beautiful. A lovely shade of blue. I think a traditional blue you've chosen there. Can we zoom out from Gois and put it into perspective for the listeners? Where in Portugal will we find Gois?
It's, if you go towards Coimbra, and then you go inland, so you will go eastern from Coimbra towards the Spanish border. It's about 45 minutes in from Coimbra.
Okay, and so it would be called Central Portugal, right? I think places like Gois and Arganil, for example, they epitomise Central Portugal for me. Would you agree?
Yes, I would say central.
Yeah. And is it Gois or Arganil where you have that incredible bridge as you're going into the town and the village there?
Yes, Gois has got a lovely little bridge, and Arganil also has quite a few bridges. We've got lots of bridges around, and they really are spectacular, and most of them obviously are over the rivers.
Yeah.
So you come in and you drive in over bridges, and then this whole region, even Arganil region, you go right across to Cashew and those areas. They all got little villages that have had their own little unique personality, and you see the architecture in that, and lots of history here. And they've really, on this side of the mountain, I call it the side of the mountain, on the Gois side, they're really trying to maintain the culture and the arts and the history on the side, which is quite lovely, and not get too carried away with tourism taking over. We do have a lot of tourism, but we're not letting it influence Gois as much as other regions.
Yeah, for sure. Because I guess a lot of your incomers and tourists are actually native Portuguese people as well. That's what I seem to notice.
Yes, the Gois side, we do speak a lot more Portuguese this side. It does help that I have got some knowledge of Portuguese, but not that fluent. I'm still almost at kindergarten level.
Me too.
But I do manage because of my grandparents having spoken to me in Portuguese, so it comes to me a lot easier. But this side is a lot more Portuguese than English. Whereas if you go across towards Arganil's side, you will find a lot more English spoken.
And then the picture I've got up currently on the screen for those who can see the screen, who won't be podcast listeners on this occasion. You can see that the schist, vernacular, is it called? The style of building that you have there. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that is quintessentially Central and Northern Portuguese, isn't it? As a building style, it's absolutely beautiful. Tell us a bit more about that and what that construction is like, and also what it's probably like to renovate for you as well.
It's quite interesting. I mean, the whole region here on this Gois side has a lot of schist. So that's the first benefit, is that the landscape has got a lot of schist in it. So it's easy to attain. So the settlers came out here about 1839. And my house was built in 1839. So they used the schist and clay, because obviously there was the river being so near. There's a lot of clay as well. So this whole region is full of schist and clay. What a fabulous thing to do. Just grab what was around. And they basically stacked all these stones on top of each other. And the walls are very thick. I mean, you won't believe, it's incredibly thick. And quite robust. So they handle the climate very well, especially the intense heat that we get here. We have more of a heat problem here in summer. I guess about the 38, 40 degrees sometimes. So it gets incredibly hot out here. And these thick walls really do help. And you'll notice that they've got quite small windows. And that also helps to keep the house insulated. So I noticed the pictures of the roofs are quite low. Normally you see quite high pitched roofs, and I was wondering about that. And I, when the wind picked up here, because we get incredible wind here, that explained the pitch of the roof, because the wind just skirted over the roofs. And, I think if anybody goes and changes the pitches of the roofs out here, you need to be very cautious, because we get extreme wind conditions here. And this pitched roof really is phenomenal with handling the wind condition. So the wind just scoots over. So because we don't have the snow, it's a bit low down for the snow. You don't need such a high pitched roof. So the pitch is perfect for our conditions here.
Perfect pitch.
Yes, and the house is 3 levels. It looks tiny from the outside, but it's actually 100 square meters over the 3 levels. And the basement, they used to keep the animals previously. And so when I came in, I had to basically pull out everything and seal it with a sealant, because when it rained, and we experienced the rain here, the big Elisa here, all the water basically went into the basement. So I found a wonderful product, if you're ever building out here. It's called Silica Sim. And I managed to mix it because in South Africa we use a lot of sealant, and I was looking for this here. And when I first came out here, everybody looked at me like I'm absolutely insane. And I said, no, I need a sealant. I need a sealant to mix in with the cement. So I basically used the sealant in the cement and managed to seal off areas without having to plaster. So I've dug up outside the house, sealed outside where the water was damming up and going into the house, and didn't seal the walls, because when you seal schist, you're going to have a problem with the walls crumbling in years to come.
Okay, yeah.
So the actual wall needs to breathe. So the worst thing you can do to schist is to actually seal it with cement. Okay, so you need to leave the structure bare. So I managed to seal outside where the water was causing a problem, so that the water wouldn't enter the basement, and that solved the problem. So that's one trick. If you've got basement issues where water is coming in, and you don't want to seal the walls because you don't want to damage the walls, or you've got beautiful some areas in Portugal actually are cave areas, or you've got boulder houses and schist houses. Use a sealant on the outside and not on your walls.
Good tip. That's great. My goodness, you've been busy then in this last 12 months. What's the extent of the work that you've done?
Well, we came out here, and so it was 3-level house, and the flooring, it was owned by a previous carpenter, and he had done the most amazing work here. The Portuguese love divisions. And so they'll take a tiny house and they'll divide it into so many rooms, which are totally impractical because, I mean, I like my space. But you must understand that this family, I mean, he was a carpenter and he had, I think, 5 children. So every time he had a child, he would divide the house so that the child had a room. So he was a wonderful man. And you could actually feel the energy of him in this house. He actually worshipped this house, and his woodwork was so meticulous. And it was such a shame to have to pull it out, but we had to, know. And I've actually kept some of the things. It was incredible, and I will use them elsewhere later. And so I pulled all that out, and obviously the ceiling was low, so I had to pull the ceiling out. And that expanded the roof. So because, I don't know, these people must have been very short because the ceiling was very low. It was like just above my head. So now I've got space above, and then pull that out and then put some insulation on the roof, because I don't want to replace the roof yet. The roof is fine.
Yeah.
But in a year or so, I'm thinking about a retiling or actually putting insulation above the beams, because I want to keep the original beams, which are chestnut.
Wow.
So they've used a lot of chestnut out here, which is very, very strong and durable, and it lasts years. So if you've got chestnut in your property, try not to remove it. So we've done that. And then basically what I'm doing is restoring and not replacing. So the windows now I've basically taken off and sanded and varnished and tried to patch up where there were issues so that they seal. Then the flooring, I ripped it all out and replaced it on one side, both levels. The other side is still fine, actually, because he had recently redone that flooring. And then the walls, I've cleaned them up, because they needed some cleaning up. So I actually used a drill and used a metal brush on the edges, and some of the walls because I used coal fires inside.
Oh, yeah.
So some of the walls were quite blackened, and there was some coal, almost like, especially the kitchen, was almost, the coal had mixed with the grease. So you remove it with a metal brush, and it takes it off. So, and then you've got your schist there instead of going in and cementing over it all. So that is still there. And so everything I'm doing here is trying to maintain the property as natural as possible. And as we go along and need to change anything, then I will change it. But I'm trying and keep it as original as possible, and not take too much of that away from the property, which actually is a lot more work than just coming in and really restoring it all with new stuff.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more effort. But the result is so much pleasanter,
I
think.
bet. I
Well, for
bet
me.
it sounds wonderful with your chestnut timber there, and of course it's the castagna time of year, isn't it? Where the
It
chestnuts are
is.
coming from the trees as well. How lovely! And I with the kind of picture you paint of your. I was going to call it a cottage. It's obviously bigger than a cottage, but I can imagine the smell of roasting chestnuts permeating your home there as well. And what a lovely story with the carpenter. It sounds like it could be the basis of a Portuguese folk poem, of the carpenter with 5 children who divided his house up into lots
Yeah.
of little rooms.
Yes, I mean it's really, and you can really feel his love for the house. And
Yeah.
we actually met the entire family,
Oh,
because what
wow.
happened was he passed on, and the family was left, and they didn't change the name over. And so when I came to buy the property, there had to be a double name change, and everybody decided they wanted to be present. So the it was basically in the name of 15 people. So
Wow.
on the day, you won't believe it. I honestly didn't know whether I would succeed in getting this property, because I was trying to get everybody together because they all wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And on the day of signing the deed at the deeds office, everybody arrived. So the deeds office was full with 15 people and myself, trying to change the name across, firstly to the first lot of inheritance and then again to the second lot of inheritance. So it was a whole lot of signing of papers, and we were all in the deeds office and we were all excited. Everybody couldn't believe this is actually happening. And the shame, they took hardly any, because they split it up amongst the 15 people. So it was like, gosh, maybe you'll buy a scooter or something with it each, But it was just
Yeah.
such a wonderful occurrence. And they were so thrilled to see the home going to someone who's going to preserve the home and not
Yeah.
just destroy the aesthetics of it all. And I really love the house. I mean,
I can tell.
it was a very strange find. I woke up 2 o'clock in the morning and found this house online, and I said, that's the house I want. This is a little corner house. I've always wanted a corner house, and it just looked absolutely picture book. And I said, I'm going to go see this house. I didn't even know where it was. I hadn't even heard of Gois at that stage. And I drove all the way to the mountains, and I came and saw this house and fell in love with it and said, that's it, I'm buying it.
How
And so it took
amazing.
me six months to get the house into my name. And that was because we had to gather everybody. And some of them were quite elderly, and they came with their crutches and everything, and they still made it to the deeds office and did the transfer. And I'm so glad I met them all. And I still speak to them today. They share the whole experience of me changing the house. Some of them have been over to see the house and the transformation, and they're so happy that, the love is continuing in this household. And, they just didn't have the time and effort, and some of them are older, so they actually can't put the energy in here that's necessary to keep the home alive. If you leave a house like this vacant, eventually it will just become a ruin.
That's what an
So,
incredible story. It's very filmic, that the situation you describe with 15 people of various states of age and mobility making their way into the notary's office or the solicitor's office. That's incredible. And you managed to get them all together on one day. What an incredible historical event.
It was truly remarkable, and it was very significant for me, and it's just made the whole experience so much more meaningful.
Yeah.
It wasn't just this barren house that I came and pulled up of nowhere that's been neglected and left. There's a lot of history in here, and in fact, our village has a lot of history associated with it. A lot of the original families are still here. They come on holiday here, and some are still living here, and they have been absolutely remarkable. One of my neighbors has basically taken me in as family, and he's helped me with so much here with the building and everything else. And possibly that's why I've never had to use builders. I mean, we did it ourselves. And it's just been incredible. I mean, I know I had some building experience with set building, but not to this level. And this is just this has just been quite a project. I took it on and I thought, and I was going to use builders in the beginning, and being the climate, being winter when I wanted to start, and there was a lot of delay with the depression of the weather, and then with everything else that took place. I just started and I just never stopped, and that was it, and it just became my project, and that was that, and I hadn't got built in.
Well, what an interesting 12 months you've had. We are getting a few comments and questions, which is great. And Steve Merwin has joined us from Minneapolis, who says, looking at the picture on the screen, love the pumpkins. You've obviously been busy this weekend as well, and you've turned. Looks like you've turned the house into a set this weekend for Halloween, or the Dia das Brujas over the weekend. There, we'll come back to Gary's question in a moment about what to grow and what to drink in your area. Xander was asking how you found the property, which you told us about 2 a.m. in the morning. That sounds like an interesting story. And which online site was that on? So we can return to that. And Shelley is saying, this is so interesting. Thank you. I agree, Shelley. In case you're wondering, in case you've just tuned in, you're listening to Laura from Gois having an expat chat with me. I'm loving this formula, actually. And I hope this will be the first of many of this style, where we can just get somebody to come on, talk about their fascinating journey in Portugal, and get the chance to ask questions like we're asking of you, Laura. So thank you very much for being a sport tonight. So on the question front, we'll come back to the how exactly you found the property. Actually, one comment. I did ask the question, didn't I, about what's the temperature like, political temperature like in America. Doreen Reyes says, one could cut the anxiety here in the US with a knife. I recently returned, absolutely, after living in Amsterdam for 2 years, where I felt so safe as a woman alone. With the guns, racism and political climate, it's more frightening than ever here now, trying to find a way to move to Portugal. Thanks for the helpful info. Well, it's our pleasure, Doreen, and we hope that you can do that and return to Portugal. Do stay in touch, of course, with expatsportugal.com. Get on the forum there and get chatting to people. Tune in to us, and we'll keep what I like to say is we keep people's Portuguese pilot light lit. So if you've a dream to be here, we help you fan those flames and make that dream a reality over here in Portugal. So to Gary's question now, what grows well there and what doesn't in your region, Laura? Also, and this is typical of Gary, what do you have any nice local wines to try? So food and wine, please.
Oh, okay, right. So let's start. These people are more into spirit drinking in my village.
Yeah, okay.
And they make something called aquadents, which a lot of people know about. So that seems to be what they make here. So we're not typically a wine producing area. But aquadents, yes, they take some of these wild berries, like a wilder berry. It almost looks like a lychee, if you know what a lychee is.
Yes, is that the madronia?
Yes, they turn those into alcohol. So they use those, and we've actually seen it here. And if you go into the Gois information sites and the municipality of Gois, they'll actually show you, they've done aquadents here, and we've got just down the way here, we've got a house here that's got a whole distillery, and they seem to make aquadents.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, quite strong. I'm not a big drinker, so just a little bit of that puts me to sleep. And then what grows here? Well, we have chestnuts here, so chestnut trees are all over the show. We haven't had as much eucalyptus planted this side in Gois, which is fortunate. So we have a lot more natural vegetation. We have some pine as well, and we also the crops. We have a lot of subsistence farming here, so it's not massive farming; it's little subsistence farm. And this village itself, we all have a little bit of land, and we tend to grow our own things. So what grows well here is obviously the cabbage. It's courge.
Go on, sorry. It's traditional, isn't it, to grow cabbage? Yep.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of that here that grows like a weed. That's everywhere. And then in summer, they grow lettuce, they'll grow beans. They grow a lot of beans here. They grow pumpkin, a lot of pumpkin here. So, yeah, we got a lot of pumpkin here. You saw the big pumpkin in front there. That was from here. I managed to grow some butternuts, just sprinkle it in the ground, and it just grew. Tomatoes grow like wild here. Peppers and chilies, and I've tried some aubergines, a baby marrow. Apparently Brussels sprouts also grow very well here, so we'll try that next year. Persimmon, got a lot of persimmon here.
Beautiful.
We have cherry trees, apple trees, peaches, plums. So there's a whole variety out here. Corn, and obviously potatoes and sweet potatoes grow very well, and onions.
It sounds to me like just about everything you might need.
Yeah, well, if anybody knows much about agriculture, we have a lot of rivers. So if you have rivers and river valleys, your soil is quite fertile.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of fertile soil here. So we're very fortunate. And obviously, this area here has a lot of water available to it. So the water comes down from the mountain and it basically filters through and has its own watering system. So they historically built trenches or little aqueducts going through all our land here. So we don't even have to do much work. We just open up from our ancestors that built all these little aqueducts, like a little, it waters the whole land itself.
Amazing.
So you go and you open and it's got a little pole, and you pull out the pole and it's got a plug, and it will let water come out from one tank to another tank to another tank. So we've got a multiple tank system, and then all this fresh water comes down from the mountains, traveling right through, and it waters all our land. So we don't have to go carrying lots of water.
Sounds amazing. So
yes.
We're grateful to the ancestors for that system then.
So that's originally from the original setup that they did here. They came out here to get away from the war, to find peace, and also partly because of the war. It's quite contradictory. They came away to get away from the fighting, but also this area is very rich in wolfram, tungsten. So they came here to mine the area for the weaponry. So they would mine this wolfram out here and supply the weapon manufactory. So this is where the money came in from.
Amazing.
And so there's a whole setup here, and there was a bit of gold as well somewhere along the line. I might try and find some in these rivers. Panning, but I don't expect to find much, just for the fun of it.
That does sound like fun. Yeah, incredible. So when was the period you described there of getting away into the peaceful countryside, but then to help with the munitions? What time in history was that?
Sorry?
What time in history were they getting away from which war, and what munitions were they creating?
Well, we're looking at about the 1800s.
Okay.
So they came out here in the 1800s, 1839, and established themselves here. But previously there were people just coming here. But this village was built around the 1800s,
Incredible.
right through to the 1900s and further down. So all sorts of wars that would try and get away from, and then and make a life.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And so it's got a lot of history. It's been through nearly everything and survived. So it's quite incredible, actually, if you think about it, what these people went through and the living conditions they had. Because, I mean, can you imagine coming here and settling in these mountains? I mean, you got to picture it. When you first arrived here, there were no roads, you had to find everything yourself.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the passes through here, I mean, you can come out here and you can actually walk the trails, and there's trails that go right through all these mountains, and you actually see where these people used to walk across. And you can imagine in those days, they used to have these like donkey carts and everything going through these mountains with their livestock, trying to just survive and going from one village to another and then finally settling. And it's absolutely incredible if you think of how these regions came about and people settled here. It's just, I think what drove people here is the water. The water is just amazing here. I mean, the water coming from a mountain is fresh. And then not only that, they seem to have a filtration system here as well. So you can drink it. So you don't have to purify the water. So, it's just wonderful. You go up to the tank and you can fill up a flask of water and drink it, and it's fresh water. It's just such a gift.
It really is, isn't it? Oh my goodness,
it's just fabulous.
I think there's going to be a surge of interest in Gois as a result of you talking about it now. I'm totally in awe of your story and your description. I love the place anyway, but I mean, this has just sort of deepened my affection for Gois, absolutely. And we've got a few more questions coming in about it. Thank you, Laura. Really appreciate it. This is an expat chat with Laura from Gois tonight on the Portugal Show with me, Carl Munson, taking questions, hearing about Laura's journey. Absolutely brilliant. And that little historical sort of vignette there. Superb, Laura. Thank you. Cheeses. Blessed are the cheesemakers possibly over your way. Are there famous cheeses from Gois?
Look, around here we've got goats. So there's a lot of goat's milk cheese. We don't have many cows out here. So it's all going to be goat's milk cheese. So you're going to have goat's milk cheese produced by little independent people, a lot of people making their own thing. And then there is further out, as you go towards the hospital, there are actual cheese farms, and up in the mountains here, there are little cheese farms or goat farms making cheese. So yes, there are quite a few. I'd have to look up which ones are the best ones here because there's so much cheese in the market here. I mean, I wouldn't be able to really pick.
No, that's fine. I mean, do you know what? I think you had us all at local cheese. Well, you had us all at local producers. I mean, that just sounds so wonderful. To have a simple lunch in Gois of, the beautiful water you're talking about, maybe aguardente finish, but some local bread and cheese, goat's cheese sounds fantastic to me. There was a question that I want to ask you before it gets lost in the rush. Charles was asking some time ago. I mean, we're moving from back in the day, from the 1800s, right up to date now, 21st century stuff. How's the internet and tech services for where you are? This is an important thing for people who settle, obviously. So yeah, how's your internet connection?
All right. So what happens in this region, in this mountain region, is you are aware that there was a massive fire out here in 2017.
Yeah.
So when that fire happened, all the lines were above, and they're not underground. So a lot of the lines got damaged. So there are 3 internet providers here around here. One is Vodafone, Meow, and the other one is Nosh. Now, in our village, we can only get Nosh, but we can get it via satellite. So it's satellite, and depending on the cloud cover and everything else, depends on how your reception would be. So we don't have fiber optic to this village, but one village down, Cabrera, they have Meow, who provides fiber optic. So they've got fiber optic. So depending on which village you choose and the necessity of what type of internet you require, you can find a village that you will find high-speed internet.
Tremendous. Oh, that's good to know.
On the mountains.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Fantastic. Great story, Laura. Thank you for sharing, says Eric J. Took quite a bit of courage on your part, if you ask me. Yeah, I agree, Eric. A courageous adventure. You've done so much in such a short space of time as well, as far as I'm concerned, Laura. Jared from Nevada saying hi this evening. Boa noite to you, or boa tarde, I guess, for you, Jared, if you're in Nevada. Eugene over in Ireland joining us tonight. Boa noite, Carl and Laura. So Gois is popular with firewater. Good to know, smiley face. Laura, you said Gois gets some frost. may I ask the heating costs for your beautiful home? Eugene looking to make a home in Portugal. I know a little bit about Eugene. He joins us for our Expat Man Cave on a Friday night from time to time. Big fan of the show and very helpful to us, Eugene, with all your sharing. Really appreciate it. So he's interested now in Gois frost and heating costs for you, Laura.
Well, like I said before, the walls are very thick on this house. And because I didn't go ahead and plaster it, the insulation is working well. Okay. So I think the worst thing you can do out here is go and slap plaster on a schist house. Then you're going to damage all the temperature control. Okay. And also the floor is wooden. So that also helps with maintaining temperature both in summer and winter. Okay. So you need to go with what works for the environment. That's number one when you buy a house. Yeah. Look at the environment and maintain what works. Okay. If you're going to be putting tiled floors and you're going to be putting concrete and you're going to be plastering your walls, you're now damaging what works. Okay. I'm going to be quite honest with you. A lot of places here, they've done that, and it can be very cold. Okay. Second thing is you can put in a salamander. Now, if you put in a salamander, you've got to be very cautious of obviously setting your place alight. So know what you're doing and put in a decent salamander. And in this region, we have wood everywhere. So you can go and get wood for nothing.
Hold on a minute. What's a salamander? I'm not sure. I've not heard of that before.
A salamander is a fireplace. It's like a little metal fireplace. So
like a wood burning stove.
Oven.
Okay,
yes,
so
wood burning stove.
Okay.
Okay, but now we have problems with some people who honestly don't watch their wood burning stove. So now you don't want to put a wood burning stove in if you're not going to take care of it, watch it, observe, and not overload it. You know, you've got to understand the fire risks when you are using a wood burning stove, and always be present using it. And try not to fall asleep with it on. Use another method when you're sleeping. So if for example, I don't. Once the house is warmed, it kind of maintains its heat. So you warm the house up, keep everything closed, and if you've got a good salamander, there's no smoke inside. And then go to sleep, and then when you wake up again, put it back on again. I wouldn't run a salamander while I'm sleeping, for example. Then I've got an electric blanket, for example, and that helps me through the night, or little electric fan. And that's much better than keeping a fire going all night. But for the rest of the time, while you're up and awake, and that wood burning stove is actually quite lovely. It heats the whole place up. Just know what you're doing with it. And we're actually very careful on fires and how to use fire here in these regions, because we don't want the whole village alight.
Absolutely. Okay, so and the clue for cost there obviously is in finding timber and burning that on your wood burning stove.
Yes.
And maybe adjusting your expectations as well in terms of, as you say, I mean, that's how I remember life as a child staying in the countryside, is that it goes cold at night. I mean, presumably you can install back boiling central heating systems and so on, but you're kind of reverting to a more natural, actually healthy way of living, I would say. So you're not completely warm all night. You just get your electric blanket on, you get covered up, and you breathe good fresh air all night, don't you? And then stoke the fire up again in the morning. Also, that's somebody's job anyway in the morning.
Yes.
Take it in turns.
Well, yes. I mean, you've got to look at what this house is for. Okay. For me, this is a cottage. It's a place to come and explore, to be, a little archaeologist, a crazy person. This is that kind of life. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not your city life. So, if you come in here just because you want to get away from the cost of living and you want to expect city life, then rethink it. Okay. Because it's a different way of living. Okay. You need to really enjoy this way of life. And it's lovely as a holiday home and that sort of stuff for people who don't enjoy it all the time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's a
I
break
do.
away from city life. There are other areas where people have totally modernized their places. Okay. And then, of course, you've got to know there's a cost involved.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because then the heating comes at a cost, everything comes at a cost. If you're going to run all that, we have friends that are totally different, and they've bought out in the Cashew region, which seems to be putting up houses that are like brand new, all by the same builder. And they have gone and put in air conditioning units and heating units and wood chip heating units and, everything that's your comfort living. So that is a totally different scene. So if you want that, you've got that out here.
Yeah.
If you want rustic, you've got it out here. You can pick and choose. But those that go off the grid here, just remember it is cold.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're off the grid here, know you need to keep yourself warm. You can't just freeze at night.
So it is a bit like being grandmas in the winter back in the day. When you breathe out sometimes at night, you can see a cloud of vapor.
Yes, if I walk outside, if I walk outside here, it's quite misty at night now. It's actually the mist is all up because it's a valley.
Yeah.
So the mist will come into the valley. So the mist covers the valley, and then in the mornings it's there. And then as the day progresses, that whole mist will lift.
That's
just like
wonderful.
any other river.
Yeah, and this is really interesting, eye-opening stuff for people because the picture you paint. I think a lot of people, I really love the idea of that. But you do have to really get to grips with the practicalities of that as well, don't you? If you need to avoid the damp, it might be a place not to consider, or just have, as you say, as a holiday home. And you need to embrace a way of life rather than just a sort of a little snapshot, a glamorous, exciting snapshot. It is a whole way of life, isn't it, that you've taken on there?
It is different, but I mean, I'm a type of person that adapts easily.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived in different countries and I've adapted to different ways of life, and I've studied different things. And so I'm not afraid of change and adapting. And this certainly is not going to be my only project. I hope to buy a couple of other cottages around Europe, and actually... Wow. Yeah, different ones with totally different experiences and totally different climates, and do them up, and rather have smaller ones than one big place. So that's my vision. So I'm not afraid of taking something like this on. This is more exciting for me than anything else. So I think it's a way, it's a mindset.
Yes, indeed. It sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. Mag is saying Benoit, Carl, and I'll extend that to you from Mag as well, Laura. It's lovely, says Paul, hearing Laura talk about the wonderful village of Gois, one of our favourite places. It looks to me from that comment, Paul, that autocorrect turns Gois into good, which can't be a bad thing, can it? Couple of questions. Are they still mining in Gois? Asks Xander. And Steve from Minneapolis is saying, what's the elevation of your home? Yeah, what's the altitude there, Laura, and the nearby mountains?
I actually haven't checked. That's a good question. Maybe you can tell me.
Okay.
I can send you the pin. It's Sandinia, Sandinha.
Right.
So if they can look that up on Google, I'm currently on the phone, so I can't actually look it up.
Oh, I'll try that then.
So
okay.
So if you look it up,
Sandinha.
Then Sandinha Gois.
Okay.
So that will then drop you the pin, and then you can see exactly where we're at, and that will give you the altitude.
Well, that's good. That's one of the great things about doing it as a radio show like this, is actually people can be on the web doing a bit of their research to come to Portugal while they're listening to us talking. And it's been wonderful talking to you tonight. We'll conclude within the next few minutes because I've kept you for a long time. But I've just seen the altitude is there's all sorts of things coming up on my screen now. You're looking at 356 meters, nearly 1,200 feet above sea level. That's how it's worked out, isn't it?
There we go.
At Sandinha. Cadafaj, Colmeal was the river beach I went to, I believe. Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
wonderful.
beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Then
There's the answer to your question, Steve. Sorry, go on, Laura.
did you go to the other one, the olive press, where the olive press is, by Cabrera?
No, that's the next one, Cabrera. That's presumably the village of the goats, is it, Cabrera?
Yes. Now there's an olive press, and it's a historical olive press, and people come and view it, and they actually still have it functioning. So it's like a mill, and it works with fire, and they actually have a whole show, and you can actually come and see this whole way of pressing olives in the olden days and getting olive oil.
Okay, there's another one for the list, everybody. We compile a list after just about every show I do about Portugal. There's another thing, another experience, another place to visit to add to the list, and that's certainly that needs prioritizing up the list. It sounds fantastic, and I'm sure a lot of people will have developed quite an appetite for seeing Gois tonight. Yes, any mining is active? Is mining still active where you are?
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
No.
All right.
To be honest, I haven't noticed anything. I doubt it. I think it's further north.
Okay. I think what Laura's saying there.
East.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes. So the north and east, but I think Laura's also keeping a bit quiet about the gold, which she wants to pan and keep to herself.
I don't want you to know.
It's like
I've seen some stuff. I've seen something glistening in the water, and I'm like, I keep on saying I'm going to go down there, and so like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down there and have a look, but I'm sure it's just fool's gold, you know.
It sounds like fun, but I think we should just tell everyone, no, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here in the water. No. Move along. Just go to the olive press and to the river beach, and then go home, and you keep all the gold to yourself that way. Laura, fantastic.
Yeah.
What I forgot to ask you was the district that you're in. Is that Coimbra still over in Gois?
We are all managed by, I think it is Coimbra, and then we are, then it's subdivisions. So we fall under Gois, obviously.
Yeah.
And it has its own little lady that manages the area.
Oh, that's your mayor, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The lady mayor, fantastic. Yeah. Have you had lunch with the mayor yet?
Yeah. No, but on Halloween, I met with 2 people from the information center because we did a little table here and had Mexican food and stuff like that.
Tremendous.
And they came on over, and then we had a good discussion about how I can get involved in the community here, because I'm very active in other areas.
Okay.
So I want to get involved in the community and be more productive with them and help them out. So we had a good chat.
Tremendous.
And
Oh, that's the way to do it. I mean,
I
think you're a model expat, actually, with what you've been saying there, with sensitively restoring your home, getting involved with local community life, learning about the place, and integrating. Sounds wonderful. I've got a picture up of your bread. Is that the bread that you baked for the weekend?
Yeah, that's some of the bread we bake here. And sometimes we use the wood oven outside. Sometimes we've got a massive oven inside. We make all sorts of stuff here. So it's quite interesting, and a nice little stopover when people are coming through to visit this area, because I think the more we kind of explain to people how to live within nature but not abuse it, you know what I mean?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And still have a quality of life. I think a lot of people think some people come out here and just disappear into the mountains.
Yes.
And it's not all that. Some of us are living a very good life here. We have everything that makes us comfortable. We still carry on with our careers. There's a whole, it's not just people getting away totally off the grid.
Yes.
There's in between. You know what I mean?
Sounds like a perfect balance. So I won't ask you the question, would you recommend it? Because I think obviously you would, and everyone else I think wants to live there now from what you've said. One final question for you as a sort of more general help to people like David. David saying hello. David a bit so upset that Americans can't go to Portugal at the moment. Yeah, I'm sorry too, David. It must be really horrible being on the other side of the Atlantic, wanting to come here and just waiting for the election results, seeing if that changes anything. But yes, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. And Doreen as well, who's got a similar plan, and lots of other people I'm sure who are listening to this now and who will listen to it in the future if they chance upon it on the podcast or on YouTube. What would you say is the best way to keep your dream alive, Laura? Because you're obviously a sort of visionary person. What advice would you give to people sort of practically, mentally, spiritually, if you like, to manifest their dream in Portugal? Was a final question to you.
Firstly, ditch the fear. I think, a lot of people, I've always been a dreamer and I've always been an adventurer and I always do what I want to do. As crazy as it is, if I say I'm going to do something, I just land up doing it. And I don't know if you know much about, I come from a European household, and obviously my father was a bit different from me. Everything should be work for a boss, and and how can you not work for a boss, and how can you not do this, and how can you not do that? Almost negative about things, and always instilling fear. And I think the first thing you need to do if you want to dream about something is get rid of fear. You will make it. You will get out here and you will make it. It might be a bit difficult, but you will make it. That's the first thing. Get rid of the fear. Picture where you want to be, and start inquiring.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who will help you along the way. And a lot of the stuff you hear, the negative stuff, is not true.
Wow.
Because you will always hear negative stuff on the forums, especially on these group forums. Like when you're saying, I want to come over and I want to do this, and everybody's like, oh, but this and that documentation and that. Yes. It's like going anywhere else. It's like going to any other country. I've been to America. I've been to Australia. I've been everywhere else. It's like everywhere else. You're going to have to do the red tape.
Yeah.
But it's doable. It's manageable.
Yes.
It's not impossible. Just start. Just go ahead. Ditch the fear. Ignore the negativity because you're going to hear it.
Yeah. And
go for it. Be brave. And you won't look back.
That is such fantastic advice to conclude with. Lewis Cauldron, good evening. Or he says Gois evening. I see what you did there, Lewis, from Atlanta, Georgia. Your story is so inspiring, Laura. We hope to find our way to Portugal as soon as humanly possible. Good luck with that, Louis or Lewis. Forgive me for not knowing the right way to say that. And we're going to have to carry this question over, Cindy, but what are some ways to find your niche in a new community? I think that's a whole other hour about how to integrate appropriately. And maybe Laura will come back and talk to us about that. Laura, it's been so lovely to talk to you tonight. I really appreciate you spending so much time talking with us. Actually, the question I didn't ask, and I should, who's the dog? What's your dog's name that we see in the lovely picture there?
Oh, that's Nikita, and I have a cat, and they get on so well. Nikita is the dog, and if people suddenly go and find more out about me, Nikita is the princess. She's been everywhere with me. She's been to America, she's been to Australia, she's come here, she's been to the UK.
Really?
Oh, she's just been everywhere.
Incredible. So I imagine she would be a stray in Portugal that you picked up, but she's actually been your traveling companion for years.
Oh no, I've had her. She's my baby. I've had her since baby. So she's been everywhere with me. And then Enzo as well, I've also had as a kitten, and he's been everywhere with me. And he's bigger than her. So my cat is bigger than her. I got him tiny, and he just kept growing. He's massive, and he's like a puma. He's beautiful. He's absolutely gorgeous. And he thinks he's a dog.
Incredible.
So,
it must be a hoot being in your home with those those two. Thank you for sharing your story and your time, says Cindy. And what a wonderful hour. Obrigado, says Steve. Thank you, Steve. Laura, thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking to you. And thank you for your input and your inspiring input and telling us your story. And have a wonderful, beautiful life over there in Gois.
Wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you to everyone who's tuned in this evening. We'll see you in the morning, and we'll see you in our continuing, or the beginning of our presidential election coverage tomorrow evening in this same slot from 10 o'clock Lisbon time, and looking at the results on Wednesday to see how that goes. And obviously every morning for Good Morning Portugal with me, Carl Munson. Thanks again to Laura. Take care. And yes, abundant.